Hello, I'm Kelly Taylor Ryan, and welcome to Mainly Unspoken. Today our guest is Eugene, who is a instructor on the Constitutions, and he has some very interesting information that I'd like to share with you. Hi, Eugene.
Hi.
Well, you know,
Are we having fun?
I'm having a wonderful time. I'm looking here at the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And it states here that each individual of society has a right to be protected by it in the enjoyment of his life, liberty, and property according to standing laws. He is obliged, consequently, to contribute his share to the expense of this protection, to give his personal service or an equivalent when necessary, but no part of the property of any individual can, with justice, be taken from him or applied to public uses without his own consent or that of the representative body of the people. That's kind of interesting. But here in Maine, the representative bodies of the people say that they can take your property if you don't pay your property taxes. They say if you don't pay, our state law and our representatives wrote that state law, it says that if you don't pay your property taxes cash, after 18 months, even if you have a $1 million home, that $1 million home belongs to the town.
Okay, you remember me asking you, do you consider this to be law?
Yes, this is law.
Are these Declaration of Rights, are they natural and intrinsic, meaning coming from a creator?
You're born with them, yes. They
Okay, but what you're saying, if I bought a piece of property in Maine tomorrow, that I would lose this, I could not bring this article up here in Maine? How can I lose something that's natural and intrinsic? How can something be taken from me that is natural and intrinsic? Did our founding fathers lie to us, or did they mislead us?
Well, it seems to me that they wrote this law, these constitutions, to protect our property.
I kind of gathered that myself. Okay,
but at the same time, our property isn't being protected by our government. It's being threatened. We don't really own our houses anymore. If you don't pay this property taxes, whether you can afford it or not, they don't come and say, Kelly, can you afford $2,000 a year? They say, $2,000 a year.
Yes.
Or you lose it. Of course, they say there's abatements and all that, but, you know, this woman in Biddeford lost her house.
So what happened?
I don't know what happened.
You've been a naughty girl.
I haven't been making them obey the Constitution.
You've not performed your duty and obligation to me.
To the rest of society.
Yes, when I say me, I'm part of society. And you've forsaken it. Our forefathers, our founding fathers left us an inheritance that's worth millions and millions of dollars, and you turned your back on it.
So here...
And now you're saying, whoops, there's something wrong. You've lost control of your home.
Yes, we have. We all have. Nobody in Maine owns their home.
And what happened? How did that happen?
The state legislators went in there and say, we'll take your home if you don't pay the taxes.
No, not really. We went to sleep. I can remember growing up as a young boy, the parents, the people in the town, the people in the county, they controlled their destiny, if you will. The police, everybody was under their control. For our teachers, the people would go to school, meet in the gym, and they would do the hiring of the teachers. What has happened is that where it started to fall is when they allowed people to put their hands in the public treasury. Now the legislators say, I can control them now. In other words, once you take money out of the public treasury, you no longer are free. For an example, if you were to lend me, let's say, $1 million, would I be a free man?
No.
So what happened, it's important to go back and understand how and why these constitutions were written. Now, prior to, and I'm going to refer back to 1780, when the Mass Constitution was written, because at that time they were fighting the war, and they were fighting their own government. In fact, they went even to the point where they closed the courtroom doors. They physically stood in front of them and says, "Government, you're not operating." Until we get a Declaration of Rights and a frame of government firmly established in this community or in this Commonwealth. In the process, what they are doing, now remember Concord, Sudbury, all these towns all existed. And how did they exist? Why did they exist?
Because of people.
They congregated like minds. And they found out that only they can protect themselves. So they formed towns. The towns protected everybody within their community. They looked upon their town as being an extension of their home. I can remember as a child, a government agent or a state agent couldn't come into town unless they went to the sheriff and got permission first.
Is that right?
Yes, that's my grandfather. I can remember. I'll never forget that.
Wow. So the town was really protecting.
The town protected the people from the state. That's why they formed towns, is for their own protection. Now, at that time, they had watchmen. They didn't have coppers. They didn't have police. They had watchmen. They were called cops because of the copper buttons they wore on their shoes, on their shirts. Now, they had the power. In those days, people had the power of arrest. If I saw you commit a crime, I could arrest you. The watchman could do the same thing, but he had one additional power, and that is, if you saw me commit a crime, he could arrest me without physically seeing it. See, prior to that time, we had to physically see the crime being committed before we could arrest them. So what happened, we knew each other in the town. And if a stranger walked into town, guess what? We knew him.
Right,
We knew he was a stranger. And we protected ourselves. And it's proven the governments cannot protect the populace.
No.
Impossible. You can only protect yourself through your towns. If this was carried out, there'd be no water pollution, no air pollution. All of our problems would get rid of, for this reason. Let's supposing, well, do you have a river running through Scarborough, or a creek?
I don't know. We have the Saco River.
Well, let's say there's a river comes into Scarborough, and that water is polluted. What do the town fathers do? They go to the town that it just came from and say, clean up your act. Obviously, they then would say, oh, it's not me polluting, it's the next guy. Sooner or later, they're going to get back to the source, aren't they?
That's right.
Government won't get involved, will they? The towns will, because each town being jealous, they don't want polluted water, do they?
Right.
So they're going to say, next town over, you take care of it too. So they're watching each other too. The only purpose of the state constitution is to protect the towns from the towns.
Okay.
And if a town didn't want to do their duty, then that we could take them to court and settle that dispute, and that's where the state would come in. But we wouldn't need all of these all these EPA, all this other stuff, would we? We're going to take care of it.
How do you think the towns function today?
Towns function as I don't want to put it, they are subject to the state now. In other words, from the original, the state was responsible and accountable to the town. Today, the town can't do anything without approval of the state. The state is the ruling factor.
When did it flip-flop?
I don't know exactly when, but in the Second Amendment to this Constitution in Massachusetts, they passed an amendment that made the town subject to the state. They later appealed it, but the wheels were already set in motion.
So even though they repealed it, it got ingrained in how people lived their lives.
Right. To give you an example of that, I mentioned before that I'd taken a judge to court,
Right.
and what happened in 1918, somewhere in that area, Massachusetts had a constitutional convention, and in that convention out came a constitution, and they changed the spelling of the word councils from
Right.
CIL to SEL. They're now going back to it. That's what the judges are using as an excuse to use SEL, because they said the people passed the Constitution in 1918, which the court overruled, saying you can't have two constitutions, idiots. But they will still use it, and same thing has happened here. The town cannot do anything without approval of the state. They can't even write a town charter.
Without permission of the
Now,
state.
which reminds me something else. Now, the fact that you are a community, you have town meeting, who's the most powerful person in your government?
Or it should be you, the people,
No, town meeting member.
the town meeting member.
Now, some towns have open town meetings, so everybody's a member, but the bigger towns have town meeting reps. They're the most powerful people, because if town meeting says no, guess what? It's no. So, what I say to people, your family is going to hell. We can see it in our towns, in our personal families. We have no protection whatsoever, because we have forsaken our law.
Okay, but the law is still there. It's not that it has disappeared.
Right, and
we're not enforcing it.
right. In other words, you can read that.
Right.
Now, people are going to argue, what does that say? And I'll guarantee you, they're going to pick on something about the legislature, at the approval of the legislature, whatever they do, according to standing rules. But they can't violate this. But people say, well, how are you going to collect taxes? That's not my problem, sir. We pay you highly. We give you an office. We pay you, you can subside on what we pay you.
Well, I think the point is not that they can collect taxes, but you cannot take somebody's property away because they weren't able to pay their taxes.
But more important, it says you are obliged to pay your share for this expense. In other words, you're being protected.
And you have to pay your share.
Whether you're a man, woman, child, poor, rich, doesn't make any difference, does it? You must. Now, what is your fair share? If I owe $10, you have to owe $10. That's equal.
And also, though, what's happening is that we have all these expenses that we're not approving of. Judges say, well, we need to buy this desk, and this is going to cost $100, so you're going to have to give me $1. Well, maybe I don't think we need that desk. Maybe I can build one cheaper.
Oh, wait a minute. You better not get involved in that. I'm the king. I'm not going to get involved in those details. Because I'm hiring somebody, I'm paying somebody. It's almost like running a company. But you're going to be held accountable for the spending of that money. You're going to have to come to me and say, okay, I owe that amount of money. For an example, I've written How to Control Government Through Taxation. And I took the population of the year 2000 with a $1 trillion expense budget. Each man, woman, and child owes $4,000 and something dollars. That means everybody's paying the same amount throughout the United States. And what is happening now, if the representative, if they were collecting taxes the way they're supposed to, a representative would be afraid to show his face.
Now, why don't you explain to the audience how taxes are supposed to be collected according to the federal Constitution?
The only people who can collect the tax from the people is the town.
Is the town?
Is the town, yep.
You mean income taxes?
Income
Federal income
taxes, I don't
taxes?
need, income taxes, my grandfather never paid them. I never had to pay them. I don't know where this income tax came. There's no, all right, as far as the income tax, very, very simple. They made an amendment that says that Congress has the power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived. My understanding is there's only one person who has to fill out an income tax by law, and that's the Treasurer of the United States.
Oh, really?
But he can solicit your help. And I asked, and I tell them, sure, go out and collect every tax you can get. But whose is this, this treasurer, how is he going to know what your salary is or what your wages are? It has to be a public record. In other words, you must work for the government, you must be an attorney, or you must be an outlaw. Mm-hmm. Now your income is public record. Other than that, you can't collect from me.
Okay, but let's say Congress needs some money.
Yes.
How are we going to get them their money?
Oh, they have to submit a budget.
Mm-hmm. Which they do. Don't they submit a budget?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, let's supposing the state of Maine has 10% of the total population mm-hmm. of the United States. Mm-hmm. What do you think their share of the bill is going to be?
10%.
10%. So the state of Maine owes 10%. The governor's got to pay 10%.
So you're saying if Congress comes and say we have a budget of $100, okay?
Right. Yeah, keep
We're
it
going to
simple.
run
Right.
run the country on $100 a year, okay? Then and there's 50 states.
Right.
You're going to divide that evenly. You're not even going to divide that evenly. It wouldn't be $2 a state. It would be California has more people, so they're going to pay 70% of that $100, and Maine
right.
only has $1 million. They're only going to pay $1. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Look at it this way: how many representatives does Maine have?
2.
Take the total budget mm-hmm. divided by how many people in the House of Representatives are.
Okay.
And let's say Maine has 2%. Mm-hmm. Well, you got to pay that. You have to pay for that representation, and only that representation.
So if California has 10 or 12, I forget how many they have to pay that much more than the
Right.
state of Maine, who just has 2. Right?
It's like when it gets down to you. Let's say you have 2 children, mm-hmm. a husband and wife and 2 children. You got to pay for 4 people.
But it's coming from the state, so the state has to collect the money and
From the
give it to the
towns.
federal government.
Right, from the towns. See, the state now can't talk to you as an individual. Mm-hmm. So they have to go to the town and say, town, in your voting district, or however they're going to do it, you owe X number of dollars. Now you have to go among your people and you have to collect it.
Somehow.
Somehow.
And they could do it through property taxes.
And
or
the state could care less how you do it.
Who could care less?
The state can care less how you collect it.
Okay.
They just want their money. And if you don't pay your money, guess what? Bring your representative back. He's not allowed in the Congress. You have to pay for it. You don't get nothing for nothing.
Interesting.
And you're going to pay the same amount for everybody.
And you think that would keep the budget down or the spending down?
Well, let me ask you a question. Your state rep has voted money bills, and it costs you $4,000 just for the federal budget now. It costs you $4,000 for each person in your household. Let's say it comes to $16,000. What are you going to say to him when he walks down and has a sign that says, vote for me?
I'm not going to vote for him.
And guess what? How many people could afford that?
That's right. Nobody in Maine could.
I can't afford it. Now what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to get the money from? See, what has happened now, you have representation without taxation.
Right.
And you see that and the danger of that?
The danger is that they tax us out of house of home, where they spend too much money.
The people who don't pay taxes are represented more than you are who does pay tax.
Okay.
And they get all the protections, they get all the benefits, and they don't pay a dime.
Because it's graduated.
And who does a politician target?
Those people. Okay.
How many people, there's a silent majority out there, right? Mm-hmm. I heard that President Eisenhower was elected on 18% of the population.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Amazing, isn't it?
Those are the people who are controlling your country. Those are the people who are taking everything out of the country and giving nothing back.
So if they truly collected taxes the way the federal Constitution says to collect taxes, then the people that would be responsible for the taxes would be people that really aren't paying very much taxes today, and therefore everybody taxes would go down.
Right. And not only that, but now remember, you got the town fathers. They have to go out and get you to pay that money. And you're going to say to them, you want $4,000 from me? I ain't got it. Now what are you going to do? You can't take my property.
But they can put them in service. They'd have to somehow donate their services.
Yeah, but to make up $4,000?
That'd be hard.
You know, you got a population of 30,000 people, and maybe, let's say, 500 can pay that. You got everybody working. Something, tilt, there's something wrong. You're stepping on my toes.
So you have to stop spending the money. You have to tell Washington to stop spending money.
How do you do that? See, President Roosevelt, remember, went through the Depression. There was no income tax. Remember, there's other sources of revenue for the federal government. And Roosevelt had something, oh boy, if I can remember, he had something like 34, two cabinets, two advisors, and 34, 36 secretaries. Senator Kennedy's got more than that.
Well, the government isn't modeling very well for our kids. They just spend, don't save. Credit.
Remember what I said? Anything you say will be held against you.
On a court of law.
You said your government. Isn't this a government of the people, by the people, for the people?
I don't believe that.
No, that's what they say.
That's what they say, but it's not true.
It is true.
It is true. Okay,
Oh,
why?
yes. Every country in the world has the approval of the people. It's a government of the people, by the people, for the people.
I don't think the people approve of this government. I think they live in fear of this government.
Didn't ask you whether you approve of it. Remember, this government can't do anything without the approval of that town clerk, every member of the Board of Selectmen, your neighbor. Everybody approves of this government. It is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So whenever you complain, you're complaining to yourself, and I say, stop it. I'm not going to listen to you.
Because they have government by default, because they're not doing anything.
And whose fault is it?
Well, our fault.
That's the only thing I'm trying to get across. Don't bitch, moan, or complain. Because when you do, you're complaining about yourself.
Right.
And you're complaining about me. I don't like that, because I'm doing I'm doing the best that I can to correct it, and you're fighting me. Now stop it. Wake up. You know, it's almost sometimes I get the feeling I want to take people and say, just shake them, say, wake up a little bit, will you? As a child, you know, I want to spank you, or whatever, you know, you kind of get because I'm saying it is so simple. It is so easy.
It is so simple, but it's also an entanglement.
Why do you say that?
Well, the government entangles you by fooling you at a very young age. Look at what they're doing to junior high school kids. They're sending them credit cards, you know? Sure, get you in debt before you even get out of high school.
Yeah.
And the government does that by having us get involved, believing all these laws that really don't.
But remember when you say government, I hear you saying...
Okay, when I say government, I'm talking about the lawyers that write the laws. I'm talking about, the bureaucrats. I'm talking about, corporations that are making deals with our governments. You know, it's...
Oh, you're considering that to be the government. So you're absolving yourself of all responsibility.
I don't want to absolve myself, but I feel powerless against corporate America.
And that's why I'm here.
Okay.
To show you you've got more power than you know and you realize.
If I just read the Constitution and make sure that everybody I come across does what it says.
I'm going to modify that a little bit.
Okay.
You'll get a better understanding of what it says. Now remember, I've been in this, 20-some, 30-some years, and I say, 10 years ago I said, oh, I understand this. Now I say, I understand it. And now I really understand it. Next year, guess what's going to happen next year?
You'll really
I will come back and I say, now I really, really understand it. And how I learn is by talking with people, getting your answers. How do you think? And until I see how you think, how do I put it? We can sit and buck heads and nothing ever happens. And what happens is that, I forget who it was, when they were framing the U.S. Constitution, made a comment saying, gentlemen, when they present their arguments, are very reasonable, very articulate. But armed with the same facts, they draw different conclusions. And he said, why? Because they argue from two different principles.
That's true.
And this is all I'm trying to get across to people is get back to a principle. The principle you're operating on now doesn't work. This is the principle that worked because we became the strongest nation in the world. I often go back, during the revolutionary days, they were plowing the fields with sticks, weren't they? In less than 200 years, we put a man on the moon. Why? How? What happened? See, I feel I understand it because man now became free. Henry Ford said, I can take that, all those that Galileo and all these other people before us had already figured out, I can take that, now I can make money. That's all it was, right? He could institute those ideas.
So, getting back to property taxes, and my friend in Biddeford who lost her house because she wasn't able to pay her taxes and is in court, what could she do in court now? Her house was auctioned off. She owned a house for 27 years, wasn't able to pay the taxes. They auctioned off, somebody else bought her house. What could she do to protect herself?
This may seem harsh and cruel. She has to accept this and believe in it, that this is the law, and that this law is coming from our Creator. I have a saying, this codifies the Bible. We can't enforce the Bible, can we? As individuals, we can't enforce it. But man can make a law enforcing those rules of the Bible, can't they? That's what this has done. No more, no less.
So she has to go into court and quote this and bring the judges or the attorney to suit over it?
Well, one of the things, you can't quote it. I'll never forget one time on the street, the police officer stopped me and he's starting to listen to me and he says, well, where are you getting this from? I said, Article 12. Put your hands behind your back, sir. Just as soon as I mentioned the Constitution, because he's been schooled. He knows anybody uses that argument, forget it, they lost. But he didn't. I mean, he did lose. But so you can't quote it. There's times that I will, but very, very seldom will I say it comes from out of the Constitution. It has to be part of you. In other words, when I'm talking, and this is the only reason this is the only conclusion I can give, is why that judge found me guilty and never fined me. There had to be something. It's taken me, it's about 2-3 years.
Because you weren't quoting empty words. You were getting across a law and you knew what it was.
That law is working through me, because if I believe that this law comes from the Creator, who's going to hurt me? See, now, and I find why I think it's so easy, or what makes it so easy for me, you want to fight the law that's working through me. You can sit and argue with me all day long. It's not going to do you any good, because I'm not going to listen to you.
30 seconds. What do you want the audience to remember in this show?
Oh, boy. Get involved with your community.
Okay.
Get back to basics. Take your town back, because you've lost it.
All right. Thank you, Eugene.
Okay.
One might pick up a copy of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We used to belong to that state. There are some pretty interesting things about property taxes there. Pick up your Maine State Constitution, understand it, and go help your town protect you from the state. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.